So welcome everyone. Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Christine Whitlisbach, and I am the Vice President of the Board, filling in for Beata Morcos, who's not able to be here for this meeting. Today is Thursday, May 21st. It is 9:55 in the morning. We're calling the meeting to order. And if we could get a roll call to establish a quorum, Ada?
Aaron Schweer,
Here.
E. Santos,
Here.
Matthew Greco,
He is absent.
absent, Louis Arabit,
Here.
Ada Boone Hurl here, Christine Whitlisbach,
Here.
and Beata Marcos, absent.
We have a quorum. Okay. All right. President's remarks. Well, I'm not the president, I'm the vice president, but I'm going to give you one remark. A couple remarks. Just want to thank University of St. Augustine here in San Marcos for hosting us. As always, we love your beautiful, wonderful facilities. So we're happy to be back. And I want to just mention that I'm looking for the date. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not checking my texts. Well, I am, but because I'm looking for the date. On Tuesday, March 24th, that's the right date, I believe. Yes. Yes. Executive Officer Porter and I were in Sacramento, and we testified at our sunset hearing, and we'll be talking about that later on the agenda, but I just wanted to mention, and that was President Marcos was unable to attend that, so I went in her place, and it went splendidly. So we will talk more about that later. And that's really all I have to say. I'm going to open it up now for other board members if you have any remarks.
Also wanted to echo the sentiment. Thank you very much. It is a very beautiful university.
And I would like to express my gratitude for staff and their diligence in trying to have a multi-platform meeting. It's very appreciated.
Thank you. And Ada, I just want to let you know, I don't know how much you can tell from your vantage point, but mostly you're behind me. So sometimes I may not be able to see if you need to speak. So just speak up if you're not being heard or acknowledged. Okay. And same for Helen, please just speak up because it's not ideal what I'm seeing. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'm sorry.
I apologize. I said good to know.
Okay. Okay. All right. No other. Okay. All right. So we're going to open up now for public comment for items not on the agenda. If anyone has a public comment. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Sammy Rafidi, President of the Occupational Therapy Association of California. Happy to be here. Love coming down to San Diego, always. I wanted to bring attention to AB 2497, which is, I noticed, is not listed in the list of bills that CBOT is monitoring. This is the Physical Therapy Modernization Act, which has some major areas of concern for OT practitioners in the state. I realize that this is not something that can be discussed today because it's not on the agenda, but would like to put it forward as something that CBOT should review and be concerned with, hopefully. So should I give you some of those details or not?
If you want to express what some of the concerns are, we're happy to have you do that. We just can't comment on them or react to them, really.
Sure thing. Thank you. So just a few of the things, well, there's a lot happening with this bill, and there's a lot of groups and associations that are actually in opposition, strong opposition for some of the language in this Modernization Act. But the ones that are very concerning to us in occupational therapy include things that they've put in the act language and punctuation that's problematic. For example, there's a running list of areas of intervention that physical therapy practitioners can do with their clients. So I'll just read it to you. So physical therapy interventions may include, but are not limited to, therapeutic exercise, semicolon, gait training, semicolon, functional training, semicolon, self-care, semicolon, in-home, comma, community, comma, or work integration or reintegration. And then the list keeps going. So what concerns us is that self-care has become its own intervention by way of being in between two semicolons. Whereas in the Physical Therapy Model Practice Act, it is not written that way. It is actually, it is written in such a way, let me see if I can pull that up and say to you. Just one second. So in the physical therapy model of practice, it says functional training in self-care and in-home, comma, community or work integration or reintegration, where there's this like limit where it's about the functional training, not about the self-care. So my humble opinion and the opinion of several people in the leadership of OTAC is that they're isolating out self-care. So that's an additional way that they can bill for services. So that's one thing. The other thing is their language about, they just kind of add on and other health conditions at the end of a sentence. And so it could mean mental health, it could mean mental health conditions, and it's not within the context of movement or mobility, which we feel like it should be more clearly tied to or tethered to movement and mobility. And then there's also a line in here that talks about how they address stress management. And that again is something that we take issue with because it's not clearly differentiating stress management from a movement and mobility perspective versus assessing a person's identity, habits, roles, and routines, sleep hygiene, and the different ways that an occupational therapy practitioner would address stress management. So we've met with our lobbyists and with the support of Chuck Wilmarth from AOTA, have some language that we're going to recommend to the California Physical Therapy Association, and we'll be doing that next week. So I just wanted to put that on your radar.
Thank you. And Sammy, I know you know this, but we are monitoring it and we are aware of it. We just didn't agendize it today.
Okay, great.
So-
That's good to know. Thank
Okay.
you. Okay, thanks.
Anyone else have any? Okay. All right.
Vice
Online.
President
This is-
Whistlespock,
Go ahead.
Vice President Whistlespock, do we have any public members who are visiting who would like to introduce themselves?
Oh, in person?
Oh, yes. Okay, yes.
Online?
All right, before we take any more public comment, and I see that there is a hand up. If there's anyone, you are not obligated to introduce yourself, but we would love to know who's here. So if you would like to introduce yourself, Sammy already has done that before she gave her comment. We would love to know who's here. So if you'd like to come up to the microphone, you do not have to. And then we'll take online public introductions.
Hi, my name is Kirsten Laughlin. I am faculty here at University of St. Augustine, and I serve as Vice President for the Occupational Therapy Association of California.
Welcome. Anyone else want to? You don't have to. Oh, okay. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Sherelle Diggs and I'm an occupational therapy student.
Thank you for coming. And thank all the occupational therapy students for coming. We're glad to have you here.
Hello, I'm Cecilia Martinez, and I'm a faculty here at the University of St. Augustine.
Thank you for coming.
Hello, Vivian Garesti Rodina, and I'm a student here at the University of St. Augustine. I can say it.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Krista Ernst, and I'm an occupational therapy student at University of St. Augustine in San Marcos. Thank you for having us.
Welcome. Thank you. Yes. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to go to online. Is there anyone online who would like to introduce themselves? And then after we do that, then we'll take public comment online because I know that we do have that.
This is the moderator from online. Those, if you would like to introduce yourself, feel free to raise your hand by clicking on the raised hand icon. There are instructions on the screen for your reference. And if you are calling in, *3 to raise your hand. So I'm going to call on Candace Chapman. I'm going to send a request to unmute your microphone.
Hi, this is Candace Chapman. I'm calling in from the University of Southern California's Chan Division, and I'm also the treasurer of the Occupational Therapy Association of California. I want to make a note that I really appreciate also this technological way in which I can participate in the meeting. So thank you very, very much for making that happen.
Welcome, Candace. Thank you.
I'm going to send a request to unmute Kristen Neville's microphone. Kristen, I just sent another request from your end. Just click on the prompt that appears and click on the unmute me button. And Kristen, if you perhaps raise your hand.
I'm here. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry. That was an issue on my end. I'm Kristen Neville. I'm State Affairs Manager with the American Occupational Therapy Association, and I also agree, I appreciate that you continue to have a remote virtual option for these meetings. Thank you so much.
Thanks for attending, Kristen.
I'm now going to send a request to unmute a microphone from Manpreet Nijar Bahi. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Hello, you said it perfect. I'm Manpreet Nijar Bhatsi. I'm a faculty at Sacramento City College. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thanks for coming, Manpreet.
And this is a moderator sending a request to unmute Francel Pineda.
Hello, this is Franchelle Pineda. You can also call me Fran. I'm an Assistant Director of External and Regulatory Affairs with NBCOT. And like many others before me, I am very appreciative of us being able to listen in and join the meeting virtually.
Thank you, Fran.
Sure.
This is the moderator sending a request to unmute microphone for Chuck Wilmore. And Chuck, I'll send another request to unmute you. From your end, you'll get a prompt and you'll
Okay, I think it's working now. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Chuck Wilmarth, Vice President, Health Policy and State Affairs with the American Occupational Therapy Association. Good to see everyone.
Thanks, Chuck. Always great to have you here. Thank you for coming.
And the last hand, Carissa Herrera, you just sent a request to unmute your microphone.
Hi, my name is Carissa Herrera. I'm an occupational therapy doctoral student working with the American Occupational Therapy Association.
Thanks for coming, Carissa.
There are no further requests for introductions.
Okay, we will now take public comment online.
And this is the moderator. Similarly, if you would like to participate in public comment, raise your hand by clicking on the raised hand icon. At this time, I see no raised hands or requests for public comment. I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. I guess they changed their mind, which is fine. Okay. Thank you so much. Or maybe it was to bring our attention to the PT bill, perhaps. Okay. All right. Let's move on to agenda item number 5, review and approval of the February board meeting minutes. So I'm assuming everyone's had a chance to look at these. We'll take comments from the board members first, if there are any corrections or.
I do have a couple of comments.
Okay.
Regarding, well, so first of all, I have some name corrections. That's no fault of staff or anyone. It's just
Can you
different
speak up,
ways of
Ada?
spelling names. What now?
Ada, speak up. We're having trouble hearing you.
Okay. I do have some name corrections. And going forward, I have a strategy to prevent that for staff ahead of time. But in looking at on page 11, Tiana is spelled with 2 N's. Pettit is spelled with Pettit. Ariana, Ariana, and Selena is Selena, and Aguilar with Aguilar. And going forward, I'll make sure that's provided to staff before the meeting is over. The other item that I am looking at is item 23 regarding committees. I left the conversation on the practice committee with a different impression of the plan. I had perceived that Louis Arabet was going to take the chair to relieve Vice President Wislisbach. Perhaps my recollections are wrong. I thought I would bring that forward.
What was that conversation, Louis? I don't either.
Luckily, it is recorded and on video, so we'll go back and we'll check the tape. We'll make sure we get that corrected if it needs to be.
I want to say that I was going to stick with being the chair until we were finished with the advanced practice stuff for sure. And then I think we talked about you taking it on after that. But yeah, we'll go back and check that.
Maybe the minutes are partially correct. They just might need a little bit more information there to reflect that.
Yeah, okay.
But we can check the video and get that fixed.
Thanks, Ada.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
Not for me, thank you.
Okay. Any other board members? Any public members here in our audience? No. Okay. Any public members on the webinar?
This is the moderator. At this time, I do not see any requests for public comment, but just a friendly reminder, the instructions are on the screen. You can press the hand icon to raise your hand. No requests.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yes, with the changes, I do provide to go ahead and approve the minutes with the understanding that we're going to go back to check the audio, right, to make those changes, and then also correct the spelling of the names that were identified by Ada.
We have a second? Louis seconds it. Louis seconds it.
I second.
Okay. Do we have to have a name call? Okay, Ada, let's call the vote.
Aaron Schwer.
Yes.
Becky Santos.
Yes.
Matthew Greco absent. Louis Arabet.
Yes.
Ada Boone Hurl, yes. Christine Whitlisbach.
Yes.
Beata Marcos absent.
Okay, motion passes. The minutes are approved. Moving on to agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action on the letter from the Occupational Therapy Association of California to the Accreditation Council on Occupational Therapy Education regarding the inclusion of surgical procedures of the upper extremity in their post-operative course as an education standard. I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Officer, Austin.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. This is a follow-up from an agenda item from our last meeting back in February. Just as a reminder, the letter from OTAC to ACO is included in the materials here. Thank you very much, by the way, for taking the initiative on sending that request so that we can support. This has to deal with the practice committee's recent work in reviewing the education standards for advanced practice approval in hand therapy. The practice committee met and had a discussion with the director of ACO, Teresa Brenninger, who had recommended that we submit a request to ACO to include surgical procedures of the upper extremity and their post-operative course in the new version of the standards that will be released in the coming years. OTAC did a wonderful job of writing a letter to request that, and the board had decided that they would like to support, but there were some requests for changes to the board's draft letter that would specify what exactly was meant by the upper extremity as it applies to advanced practice in hand therapy in California. So the letter that follows, the draft letter from the board, is essentially the same as the letter that was presented at the meeting in February, with the caveat that at the bottom of the first page, there is a section in italics that calls out the specific meaning in terms of California law of upper extremity. That's the only change that has been made to the letter. So the board, if the board is okay with those changes and feels like it adequately expresses what the upper extremity is, then we can move on, or we can take more suggested edits.
Speaking for myself, I think this covers it. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
I agree. I think this covers what we needed it to cover.
We'll take public comment if there is any. How about on the webinar?
This is the moderator. If you are interested in participating, raise your hand. The instructions are on the screen. And for those calling in, *3 to raise your virtual hand. That's for public comment on this item. Okay, at this time, I have no request for public comment. I turn it back to you.
Okay. So do we need to have a motion to, or just direct you?
I don't know if we strictly need a motion, but couldn't hurt.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move to accept the letter at the draft as modified to make submission from the board to ACO.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Any more discussion? Okay, let's call the vote, Ada.
Erin Schweer,
Yes. Yes.
Vicky Santos,
Yes.
Matthew Greco absent, Louis Arabit,
Yes.
Ada Boone Hurl, yes, Christine Whitlisbach,
Yes.
Beata Marcos absent.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 7, discussion and possible action on the requirements to be an advanced practice reviewer or a practice reviewer for the board. Austin?
So a little bit of background on this item for anybody who may not know. The staff at the Board of Occupational Therapy are not occupational therapy practitioners. We're just state workers. So sometimes we need a little expertise from occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants when it comes to reviewing disciplinary matters, as well as pre-approving certain courses for education and advanced practice. The board has established some requirements and guidelines for what qualifications those expert reviewers need to have, but we've come up against a couple of niche cases recently where it's unclear whether or not those consultants need to be living and practicing in the state of California. At present, the requirements state that they need to have an active and unrestricted California license, but there are plenty of people who live out of state and practice in other states but keep their California license maintained. So this agenda item is mainly for the board to discuss and decide if they'd like to take a stance on whether or not that should be required or prohibit those people from serving as expert consultants.
Could you briefly go over the current requirements to be?
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of did, but let's.
We can go in more
Da, da, da,
detail. So there are two main types of reviewers that the board contracts with. The first is what we call practice reviewers. These are occupational therapy practitioners that we consult with on disciplinary matters to basically provide an opinion on whether or not somebody has acted with negligence or outside of the regular scope of practice. And the requirement for that is that you must have 10 or more years of experience with 7 years of recent experience in the area of expertise for which they are reviewing cases or rendering a professional opinion. This is in addition to having an active and unrestricted California license. This requirement, I think, could maybe use a little bit of clarification on what is meant by 10 or more years of experience with 7 years of recent experience. Namely, are those 7 years required to be immediately recent or just any 7 out of the last 10? So we're seeking some clarification on that. And then for the other type of reviewers that we contract with, these are what we call advanced practice reviewers. They review courses for advanced practice education. Their requirement is a little bit more clear. At least 5 of the past 7 years practicing in an advanced practice area. So out of the last 7 years, if you've done 5 years as a hand therapist, that meets that qualification. And then the common qualifications to both types, as mentioned earlier, are a current and active California OT license without restrictions, no prior or current charges or discipline against any healthcare related license in California or any other place of licensure, and no criminal convictions, including those that have been expunged or dismissed. Those last two, I think, are fairly clear. So mainly what we're looking at is a current and active California OT license. Does that also mean living and practicing in California? And then we're seeking clarification for 10 or more years of experience with 7 years of recent experience.
Thank you. So I'm going to add a little bit of also context to this. When I was not on the board, because obviously you can't do this when you're a board member, but when I was not on the board, I served as both of these, a practice reviewer and advanced practice reviewer. And so basically, when you're looking for people to serve as reviewers, what you're looking for is a practitioner who understands California law, right? Because you want to make sure that what they're looking at is in compliance with California law. So if you have a good understanding of California occupational therapy practice law, and you want to make sure that this practitioner who's reviewing is up to date on current practice standards. So they know what the most current standards of practice are, most current treatment modalities, what's evidence-based, those sorts of things. So we're not looking for people who, and it's obvious from this, but for illustrative purposes, someone who's practiced 20 years ago when practice has changed so much in the last 20 years. We don't want those people reviewing courses that therapists just took, because they won't be a good judge of whether those courses are meeting our requirements, right? So we want people who understand California OT law, and we want people who are up to date on the current practice standards and evidence-based. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be evidence-based, but that is included. What the treatment modalities that we're using as occupational therapy practitioners, that we're using the standards, the gold standards, the standards of practice here in California. So Staff just needs a little bit more direction and we need to put it in writing. Let's start with practice reviewers. These are the people who review disciplinary cases. Okay. So, for example, the enforcement staff would come to me and say, we've got this hand therapist who did this, and this, and a patient got hurt. Can you review the case and tell me, did they do everything right? Are they doing things according to California law and doing all the right treatment procedures? Or did they overstep, or were they negligent, or what's your thought on this? And I would review the whole case, all the charting, everything that has to do with it, what the investigator found when they went and interviewed everybody, the patient, the supervisor, the therapist, anyone that had to do with this case. I would look at all that evidence and I would come up with my conclusion based on my understanding of the law and my understanding of current practice in the area of hand therapy. So that was my role. So think of me in that role, what I'm doing. And when we're looking for people to do this, currently that person has to have 10 or more years of experience with 7 years of recent experience. Well, what does that mean? What should it mean? What are we looking for? So I'm going to open the discussion up for that, what people think on the board right now.
One thought that comes to mind in developing a clarification is when looking at the phrasing under advanced practice reviewer, and it is indicating at least 5 of the past 7. Could it not be rephrased under the question at hand, 7 of the last 10? Would that not achieve the goal, or am I misunderstanding?
I think you may have more or less hit the nail on the head. I think that may have been what the intention was when the practice reviewer requirement was originally written. I can't say for certain, but I think that was maybe what was intended. 7 of the last 10 years.
That would certainly make it more clear and more in line with the other language. But you had also mentioned that it wasn't clear to you whether that was the immediate 7.
Yeah,
Or
I can't say for certain whether or not the intention when this was originally written was that it was the immediate last 7 years and then an additional 3 years at any other point in time, or if it was, hey, out of the last 10 years, you've done 7. So that could be you haven't done it for 3 years, but you did it for 7 years prior to that, or you've done it for 7 years. Well, if you've done it the immediate preceding 7 years, I think the window of 10 is out of the question. But rephasing it the way that you've suggested, Ada, would essentially allow a 3-year gap in the immediate preceding 3 years. So I guess that would be the question that the board would have to decide: is are you okay with the last 3 years being spent not in that area?
Right. How long is it okay to be away from that practice area before you render an opinion? Yeah, when you're in the position of rendering an opinion for something like this, how long is it okay to be away from that practice area? I have my thoughts, but I'd like to hear yours.
I think that when we're talking about the advanced practice area of hand therapy as well, and we're talking about treating clients that are post-surgical and those types of things, advancements in surgeries, advancements in interventions and knowledge in that area does change very quickly and frequently. I mean, maybe not frequently, but it does change. So I do, from a consumer protections perspective, I feel like it would be in the best interest to have the more recent experience, the immediate last 7.
No gaps.
So no gaps.
Wouldn't that require that we change the phrasing under the advanced practice reviewer as well? Because the way it's phrased in my interpretation, at least 5 of the past 7. And so it could be that you haven't practiced for 2 years.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that, but I want to stay on this discussion first. But you're right. You're right.
Okay, I'm just Yeah, thank
I
you.
don't want to get too sidetracked. So your thought is immediate. Okay. Louis, do you have something you would want to? Okay.
I feel, yeah, I agree with Aaron here. I also want to make sure that they are actually practicing still in. Hello. I agree with Aaron, and I also want to make sure that they are practicing wherever they are. Like I've seen this um letter here that someone was practicing in Tennessee, that they actually have still are practicing and did not remove their license in that particular state. Am I
Do you have a concern that they're not practicing in California? Is that what your concern is?
well, for example, this person is practicing in another state, right?
Mhm.
And they're wanting to be a practice reviewer for us. They should be holding a license in that particular state as well, besides holding the license in California, and it should be immediate.
I would assume that if they're saying they're practicing in Tennessee, that they have a Tennessee license, but we can make sure that we verify that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the very least, they still have to maintain their license in California, right?
Definitely have to maintain a California license.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I have a little bit different take, and I'd love to hear what other people think too. So one thing that Mr. Porter didn't mention was that we have a really, really hard time in recruiting people to fill this role, and it creates a administrative.
It creates some delays in the disciplinary process, as well as delays with, although this is not exactly the one we're talking about right now, but for the advanced practice reviewers, it creates delays with getting applications for advanced practice approval approved.
So not that we want to lower our standards because of that. No, I mean, we still have to protect the consumers, and it's still important that people who are reviewing these things are up to date and everything. My thought on it, and I'm just talking from a hand therapy and PAMS because that's my area of practice and I do these things all the time. I think you're right that things do change. This is my own personal opinion. That's why I wanted to not say it first. I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts. I think at first blush, it's easy to say, yes, they have, they should be currently practicing and they should be, of course, currently practicing. But I think even though things do change quickly, I don't know that they change that quickly. And here's why I say that. I think of several practitioners that I know who would make excellent reviewers who retired maybe 1 or 2 years ago that I still think would make excellent. And by the way, the whole retirement thing is a whole different
We'll
thing.
get to that.
We'll get to that. Who would still make excellent reviewers, but let's just say they didn't retire. Let's say they went into pediatrics or something. They're not in hand therapy anymore. I still think that they would be up to date on something current, 1, 2, maybe 3. I wouldn't want it to be longer than 3, but I don't think practicing right now is necessary. That's just my own thought. I'm open, but that's something I'm thinking about.
And I'm with you with that. I can see where 1 to 2 years I'd feel much more comfortable with, right? Because I think there's enough of the review process would be reviewing process, and did you follow procedures that were there, and you could kind of look right. So a lot of that comes down to just reviewing whether or not that person actually followed the best practice and had the consumer in mind and all of those types of things. So I think, but it's that 3-year thing that gets me.
Can I add something that might just help the board make a more informed decision? So one is that the practice reviewers are not necessarily reviewing advanced practice related things.
Right.
It's all sorts of different practice areas, home health, gerontology, pediatrics. And I will add that their opinion is not the end all be all of a disciplinary outcome. It's merely an opinion that's submitted as evidence into the administrative hearing, if it goes to hearing, or if we go to a settlement, what have you. So it's not the final say. It's just something that's considered as evidence at their hearing.
That does change things a bit.
So just a clarification. So it's not just advanced practice, it's also like people who are undergoing some disciplinary action.
Correct. And right now we're actually talking about the disciplinary action. I'm sorry, I used hand therapy as an example because that's not
I
really
was
what
like,
we're talking about.
Okay.
Right now we're talking about the people who are reviewing disciplinary cases.
Oh, I
It
see.
could be
Okay,
in
that makes
any area of practice, any area.
okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. I see your point.
Do we have any public comment on this? Please, I would love to hear thoughts, if you have any. It could be here or it could be on the webinar. Let's open it up to everyone. Moderator.
This is the moderator. The instructions are now on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on the hand raised icon. Or if you're calling in, press *3 from your phone. Candace Chapman, I'm going to send a request to unmute your microphone.
Thank you. I apologize if this is noted already. And what particularly stood out to me is the difficulty in finding individuals to fill these roles. And so I'm wondering, how does the public know that this is a role that they can fill? Or that there is this need and that they are able to do this and participate in the board in this way?
The way that we recruit for this position is that we have a page on our website that's linked to in a couple of different places. That page is actually printed out in the materials of the meeting. And I can probably share my screen if we want to look at that in depth. Just a minute. So this is what the web page looks like on our website, that we're recruiting practice reviewers and advanced practice reviewers. Then we see the practice reviewer section up here, which talks about its one specific requirement, the advanced practice reviewers that has its specific requirement, and then these three requirements are common to both types of reviewers. We do occasionally, although I don't think we've done it recently, but we do sometimes post on social media. And I have reached out to OTAC in the past when we've needed a reviewer in a specific practice area that we didn't have someone on contract for. And they've been very helpful with that. And actually, we have two new reviewers on contract in a new area that we didn't have covered before, which has been very helpful.
Does that answer your question? Are we having trouble?
Yes, that does answer my question. Thank you so much. I had been muted. Might I suggest putting it on the front page? Because it just gets lost into things. And it seems like a very important ask.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I agree.
I have a follow-up question. When one of these reviewers submits a report, right, and a recommendation for disciplinary action, are their credentials included in that?
Meaning, are there credentials presented to the judge and the board at the hearing?
Correct.
I believe so. Yes, they are. In their report, well, at minimum, the board can assume that these requirements are there.
Correct.
I don't think we include like their entire CV with it, but it does state on the opinion that they render, like, this is who I am. I work in this area of field. This is why I'm qualified to render this opinion.
Okay.
Anyone else want to weigh in on this? Okay. Samia from OTAC.
Thanks for bringing this to the table. It's a lot to think about. And it seems to me like when there are new graduates, you know, we tell them it's going to take you at least 2 to 5 years to feel like you have competence and confidence and that you know what you're doing and you can make decisions autonomously without second guessing yourself. And so it feels like that window of time, that 3 to 5 years, 2 to 5 years, whatever, you know, is decided, it feels reasonable. And could there be some kind of attestation? I mean, you would think, like, as a clinician with a license, that if something was out of your league, that you would have the wherewithal to say, you know what, this is out of my league. I don't know enough about this. I'm going to have to defer. I'm going to have to pass on this opportunity. But I have a friend who might be able to help you, or a colleague who might be. So I wonder if there's some kind of attestation that they, and maybe they do already, where they sign something like, yeah, I've kept up with the content. You know, I've practiced 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but I feel comfortable doing this because of my experience. Because you wouldn't want to just ignore the fact that they've had 10 years of experience, because that's really good experience.
I don't know if they're still doing it, but when I was doing it, one of the guidelines for writing the report was you have to lead with why you are appropriate to render an opinion, and you have to talk about things like that. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And there is not an attestation about that specific thing, but there is an application that's filled out that shows that they meet what are currently the requirements, and then they attest that everything in their application is true and correct. So there's not a sort of general attestation that just says, I attest that I am competent to render this opinion. It's, I attest that I have 5 out of the last 7 years and these very specific things.
yeah. When the reports come in, are they still coming in? I mean, I'm sure you read most of them because you're the EO. Yeah. Okay.
I read them all.
Okay. So, are they still coming in like, this is my name, this is my license number, I'm been asked to do this, and this is why I am appropriate to render this. This is my education, this is how long I've been practicing, this is my practice areas. Are people still doing that?
Not necessarily always their education, especially if they've been sort of practicing for a long time, but definitely their experience in their practice area is mentioned in the opinion.
In their opinion report. Okay.
And so that current standard of care expectation is there, basically. Yeah. Seems reasonable.
I guess, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess our question is, it sounds like where we're at, is it going to be, how long? How long is it? Right. And just shoring this language up. So for me, I mean, I'm comfortable with 2 years. 3 does seem a little long, probably still okay, but 2 years, I would feel way more confident.
I feel like 2 years, you're still.
Here's something that might be pertinent. I should probably add, the contract terms are for 3 years. So if you were allowing a 3-year gap when somebody applies, they're going to be on contract for the next 3 years. So that could end up in a 6-year gap total at the end of their contract. Shorten the gap that you'll accept. Because unfortunately, we could cancel the contract and back out of it, but I think on an administrative level, that would be a bit of a nightmare to cancel all these contracts and keep track of how long they've been on contract and how long their gap has gotten to. So that's just something to keep in mind, is once they're on contract, they will be on contract for another 3 years. And then when they need to renew again at the end of those 3 years, we would re-verify their experience and how recent it is.
Are you comfortable with 2 years?
I would be comfortable with 2 years. I think so for the advanced practice, or not the advanced practice, just for the practice reviewers. So
for enforcement,
for discipline, another part of this requirement is still over 10 years of experience. So I think if you have over 10 years of experience, and it's just in the last 2 years, maybe you went into a different practice area, I think you probably have another 3 years where we could rely on your opinion. I'd be
And that
comfortable.
does put that in that 2 to 5 window, right? So it's like you start with the 2 that Samia was talking about too, right? So
Before they're like
right.
fully ingrained in their new
Correct.
area of
Yeah,
practice.
exactly.
Does anyone have any concerns about practitioners practicing outside of California and rendering opinions about what's going on inside of California?
I don't. I don't because I feel like there's some just practice standards that are there. And if they're maintaining California licensure and being contracted to evaluate this, my assumption would be that they would be under the understanding that they would have to be reviewing it in accordance with California regulations.
I'll add that so if the issue at hand, if what we were trying to get an opinion on was whether or not this person directly violated California law, either something in the Practice Act or in the regulations, staff could make that determination. It's the things that are sort of more outside of the letter of the law that are more germane to just the standards of care involved in occupational therapy practice. And those things I think might be a little bit more universal state to state.
That's sort of my opinion with that, but I'm not sure if has there been an instance where there's been a case that's been evaluated that has been something that has been helpful to have somebody who has been a current practitioner or something like that.
Meaning, have we had any cases come through where it's like, oh, like you could tell if this person wasn't practicing in California, they wouldn't have come up with the same opinion? I don't think so. I'm fairly new, so I haven't read all of them, but of the 5 or 6 or so that have come in the last couple of years, I don't think that's really been the case. I think more so. Well, I'll give you an example. I can't name any names, but client was injured from a fall, and the practitioner was not using a gait belt. I don't think that the reviewer necessarily needed to be a California practitioner to determine that that was not the right thing to be doing.
I'm okay with it for general enforcement things. I'm going to have a completely different opinion about advanced practice.
I
about
agree with
whether it
that.
needs to be in
I'm with
California,
you.
but,
General enforcement, I feel like there's just general standards of care.
Any other comments about this before we try to move this to a motion? Sammy.
You like my desk?
I do.
It's good. I just did a quick chat GPT just out of curiosity to see what they recommend for medical professionals. And the average was 3 to 5 years with current practice. So that's kind of in that.
So no more than.
It says many states or courts prefer active practice within the last 3 to 5 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because 3 to 5 years is considered proficient at that point, and under 3 years is still considered novice. So, yeah, those are the levels. That's why I was thinking maybe we should follow what is.
So you want to
protect
lower
consumers.
from 10 to
No, it
5?
would be
I think what Sammy
3
is
to 5
saying, correct
years.
me if I'm wrong, is that you found something that says most courts and programs are willing to accept the opinion of somebody who has been out of that practice area for no more than 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. Oh,
So not 3 to 5 total years of experience, but a 3 to 5 year gap.
out of practice.
Okay, I understand.
Because keep in mind the 3-year contract term. So if we do a 2-year gap, it's a total of 5 years. That would put us right at the threshold of what that standard seems to indicate.
So I'm curious because I think we're lumping the advanced practice.
No, we're not.
We're
talking
not.
about that.
Okay.
It can be totally different for advanced practice. We
Okay.
can establish those
I
separately.
know there are general rules for advanced practice and disciplinary actions, and those should be applied. But there's a difference, right? Still, in terms of like who gets to be a reviewer for an advanced practice versus a disciplinary action.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. So we have the disciplinary reviewers. We'll just use the term expert witness to be clear. That's
I didn't
really
want
what,
to say it.
that's really what they are in the letter of the law. So we have these expert witnesses that review disciplinary cases, and then we have advanced practice reviewers that review courses. But if correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what your concern is that some of these expert witnesses are reviewing cases that have to deal with advanced practice. And is that what the concern is?
Um, Partly yes. Yeah.
And so you're
So can they be both advanced practice and also expert witness?
I don't think we have anybody that is, but there's nothing that would prohibit them from doing that. But they would be subject to the individual requirements separately. It's not like just because they became an expert witness, we'll automatically approve them for reviewing advanced practice courses. They would still have to meet those separate requirements.
Okay. So it has to be the case has to be evaluated whether it's well, it couldn't be advanced practice. It has to be expert witness.
Well, let me try this. Okay. So in the case of a disciplinary, in the event of a disciplinary case that has to do with an advanced practice area, let's say hand therapy, okay? Staff is going to look, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but this is what they used to do. They're going to look for someone who holds their advanced practice approval in hand therapy, because only that type of practitioner could really render a decision on this. So
That is more or less correct. So we wouldn't necessarily look for a practitioner that has advanced practice approval. We would look for somebody on contract who selected that practice area. And in order for them to have made it onto that contract, they would have had to have had advanced practice approval. But that does bring up an interesting concern, because let's assume that you are required to be practicing in California. Well, if your practice area is hand therapy or PAMS or swallowing, then you must have approval from the board. But if you don't practice in California and you practice in another state and your area is hand therapy or PAMS or what have you, that state might not necessarily require that they have the same level of approval that California does for advanced practice.
but who picks these people? Is it the manager of enforcement?
Me.
You assign the cases. You assign it.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you look to see like, oh, okay, Joe, you live in Tennessee and you're a certified hand therapist. We have this case, this disciplinary case about hand therapy.
Mhm.
Would you hand it over to someone who didn't have their advanced practice approval in California?
No. Well, so as it stands right now, by virtue of being on contract, I would know already that they have advanced practice approval in California. Yes. Well, I would know that they did, because they are on contract as a reviewer for hand therapy cases or PAMS cases.
But not every reviewer is an expert witness. And not every expert witness is a reviewer.
I'm speaking only about expert witnesses.
So if someone's an expert witness and they're reviewing cases about hand therapy, they're also reviewing advanced practice courses? What if they don't wanna do that?
No. Sorry. How can I make it clear? So let's say somebody is an expert witness. When you apply to be an expert witness, you select the practice areas that you want to review cases in. And somebody could select hand therapy or PAMS or any of the or swallowing, the other advanced practice area. So if we have a complaint or a case come in that has to deal with somebody who was practicing in hand therapy, for example, and we want to find somebody to review that case, we're going to go to the expert witnesses that we have contract. We have a list of them, and we're going to look for the ones that selected hand therapy on their application
Okay, but just because they selected that they want to do hand therapy, what if they don't have their advanced practice approval on hand therapy?
We would have verified that before we initiated the contract.
So you're not going to let them be at advanced
We would not let them
expert
be an
witness
expert witness
for hand
for
therapy.
hand therapy if they do not have California advanced practice approval. But that is easier to maintain operating under the assumption that all these people live and practice in California. But I don't think the other states don't necessarily have the same sort of advanced practice things.
They
so
don't.
it might be sufficient to just still check it on our end.
I think you need to check it on our end. But there are people in other states who do get their advanced practice approval in California for different reasons, which are out of the scope of this discussion. So that it's possible they could. I don't know. I don't like the idea of people in other states doing California stuff, but I'm okay with it as long as they maintain their license in California and it hasn't been too long. So,
And you could further stipulate that for those 3 practice areas, maybe they do have to live in and practice in
how
California.
about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's so unique what goes on here. You just really have to understand
And
it.
I think that that kind of falls in line with if we're asking you to maintain your California license, right? Even if you're practicing in Tennessee, we're maintaining California license and your California qualifications and in order to practice and your eligibility to practice in California. So if you are a hand therapist and you want to maintain your eligibility to practice in California, you would need advanced practice. So maybe it's more along those lines, like swallowing. Sure, you can do swallowing in Florida without advanced practice, but in order to do it in California, I need advanced practice. So I would need to maintain that with my California license in order to be eligible for practice here.
Well, you don't even have to maintain it. Once you get it, you have it. It never goes away.
Well, then there you
So,
go.
yeah. So once you have it,
But then you got it.
But do you want them to still practice in California?
I think as long as they are eligible,
As long as they're approved.
approved to practice in California. Well, you can have a California license and be working somewhere else. And like you can have a California license and be working in swallowing in Florida without a California advanced practice in swallowing.
Sorry.
Yes.
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 So in order to, so I would say make sure that the eligibility requirements for living and practicing outside of the state, you're only reviewing cases that you are practice eligible for. So you have all of the California regulations or requirements.
I think she's saying what you said before.
I'm saying what you're saying.
For the advanced practice
Confirm.
people, they need to live in California and practice. They
They
need
need
to
to-
practice in California.
They need to be eligible. So they need to have their California license and their advanced practice in California.
I think what Aaron is saying is that
Yeah, okay,
they have to have advanced practice approval, but not necessarily practice in California currently.
Okay.
But that's what the whole discussion
what
is
I'm
about,
saying.
is determining that.
Yes. So the only thing that would throw this off is like if someone was living in California, got licensed in California, moved to Tennessee and started doing hand therapy, then tried to sign up, but they didn't have their advanced practice approval in California. But you would catch that on the front end.
If they didn't have their advanced practice approval in California, we would catch that. It would never go farther than that.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think the fringe case that we have to worry about is somebody who gets their license in California, gets advanced practice approval in California, and then moves to another state and then has been practicing there for 2 years. Is that a person that you would be okay with reviewing cases?
I think that's okay, but it's potentially someone could maintain their license for a long, long time. I've had a license in Indiana for 30 years. Never practiced once in Indiana. Yeah, I mean, there's just, yeah.
Well, so maybe, so let's go back to just the general experience requirements. It seems like let's just looking at like more general applicant, not some of these more fringe cases. It seems like consensus has been 8 of the last 10 years experience in the practice area, because that would allow for no more than a 2-year gap, right? So 8 of last 10. Do you want to stipulate that those 8 years were served in California? Because then you could say, oh, you know, I I moved to Washington 1 year ago, but for the last 9 years before that, I was working in California under this area. Right, exactly. Well, actually, no, the way I phrase it, I don't think that would work. So maybe we want to workshop it. But what I'm getting is that you could set a time limit on how long you could have been out of California.
Are we talking about the practice reviewer, the expert witness on this? Is that the topic that we're on still on this
Yes.
part? Okay. Okay. So I thought at one point in the discussion, we talked about that for the expert witness, the practice reviewer, that was not advanced practice and being out of California was okay, because this would be more general practice functions that didn't require advanced training. That's what I recall, and I apologize if I'm confused on that.
It
And
may
then,
or may not include advanced practice areas, depending on what that specific reviewer is seeking to review cases for. So what may help, if you go to, if you have the materials up, the very next item after the web page, application to be a practice reviewer. And you can see about halfway down the page the different specialties that we can assign cases based off of. So if somebody only selects pediatrics and private practice on here, then we're not concerned with whether or not they have advanced practice of approval, because we're not going to send them any advanced practice disciplinary cases to review. But if they checked off hand therapy, then we definitely want to make sure they have hand therapy approval in California.
right. So I um do they even though they've maintained their California license to do the practice reviewing, the expert witness, do they then need to be in California?
Well, I think that's the question of the hour. I think that's right now it's not clear whether or not that's the case.
Question, sorry. Even though if they just left California and still keep that 2-year gap in place, because they still would have all their credential certifications, right, in California?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to determine, right? So for example, we had somebody who their contract was up for renewal, and I reached out to them to let them know, hey, we need to renew your contract. Can you sign these forms? And they said, you know, I would love to. I moved out of state a year ago. Is that still okay? And the way that the requirements are written right now, it's not clear. So I wasn't sure whether or not we could approve them. So that's what we're trying to find out. So this is a case where, yeah, I don't think necessarily it's that big of a deal if they've been living in another state for 1 year, but they've been practicing for the last 10 years or so in California. I think they're probably more than qualified to continue reviewing cases. But like Christine said, she's had an Indiana license for 30 years. So, I mean, maybe if it were the other way around, somebody who's been practicing in Indiana for 30 years, maybe we don't want them reviewing California cases. But where that where that cutoff lies is sort of the question.
So I've been hearing, kind of listening again. I'm thinking the 2-year gap, if we stick to that for either side.
And my look on it, my view on it is that in the expert witness in these particular categories are all people who have had training from ACODE accredited programs across the state, I mean, across the country. And so we know that they've met that academic standard to receive their degree, and they would need a license in California, and they could still have their Michigan license because they met those, for lack of a better term at this point, minimum standards of graduating from an ACODE accredited program. And where we ended up with advanced practice is because the standards didn't fully cover specific factors. So I don't know how pediatric practice would be that much different if I live in Michigan and I have a current California license and pediatrics isn't identified as a specialty practice area, and I've submitted an application with lengthy experience in a variety of settings, and that I've graduated from an ACODE approved um, institution for the expert witness that would fall in these. And then absolutely, I understand it from the perspective of advanced practice that then the constraints come in a little bit tighter. And if I'm misunderstanding something so badly, forgive me, but that's what I'm hearing and thinking based on the expert witness discussion.
Go ahead, Erin.
I was just going to sort of recap it in terms of numbers. So 8 to 10 years of practice, right, is what we were saying.
8 to 10 or 8 of 10?
8 of 10. Sorry, 8 of 10. And then 8 of 10 if you are in one of the advanced practice areas. 8 of 10 in California. Is that what we're saying?
We were on that track.
Okay.
We were on that track, yeah. I want to address what Ada just said. I do agree that, you know, pediatric practice, whatever state you're in, is, it's not my area of practice, so anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. It's probably pretty much the same wherever you go, and you could probably render an opinion on clinical treatment. But I don't agree with something that Austin said earlier. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I think the reviewer, yes, the staff can identify when there has been a problem with
A clear violation of
yeah.
the regulation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Clear violation of the law. Yes. But yes, the staff can identify that, but it's very, very difficult to review these cases without having a very good understanding of what the law is in California. And just because you have a license in that state, and even if it's recent, when you get into another state across the country or even next door, Nevada, let's just say, the culture is different, and it's based on the culture of practice is different, and it's based on the laws in that state. And it's so easy to forget and get away from that. And I just have a big concern that reviewers are not going to be as up to date on California practice.
That's completely fair. And
like
again, we don't have to open it up, right? Like the board could decide you have to live in and practice in California. So that is on the table.
I like the two years for whatever living in California. It's been 2 years since you've practiced in that area, 2 years since you've lived and practiced in California, or I don't care if you've lived in California, since you've practiced in California. For the reasons I've already explained. That's just kind of what I'm thinking. Speak in your microphone, please.
I think there's always going to be a nuance and those things. And I think the 2 years sort of gives that flexibility of, right, I had to leave for 2 years of those 10 years because of, I don't know, whatever reason, but I'm back. And so it's 2 years. And I think for any area of practice,
yeah.
not just the advanced practice necessarily, because thinking about it, it is that culture of practice and being in a university that looks at 3 different states. It's different.
It is different. It is different. And it's based on the law, how OT is supposed to be practiced in that state.
In that state.
Yeah. I mean, does that make sense, Ada?
Absolutely no. Now, the culture of practice, that phrase was very, very helpful. It adds the subjective nuance to practice that I wasn't looking at in the discussion. Thank you.
Sammy, what is your thought on that?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, this phrase, culture of practice, makes a lot of sense. California is very different from other states. I've practiced in Maryland. I've practiced in Ohio. I have a license in Pennsylvania, although I never practiced there because, I think you and I both did traveling OT.
Yeah.
And it's different. And who runs what? Like speech therapists run this in this state, and OTs run it in this state. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
And I want to say, I may have not have had my license in Indiana for 30 years. I don't want to misstate on the, it may have been like 20 or 25. I don't know the exact year, but it's been a long time. Yeah, let's go to public comment online, please, if there's any other comment on this. If AOTA has a comment, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. But if not, that's okay too.
This is the moderator. I'm going to share the instructions on the screen on how to raise your hand. You can click on the outline of a hand if you would like to participate. At this time, I see no request to participate, no raised hands.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I think we're kind of all in agreement here, 2 and 2. So would someone like to cobble together a motion? Austin, you're good at that.
Well, maybe I'll just I won't cobble together a motion since I can't make a motion, but I can maybe cobble together what the recommended requirement seems to be. So to be a practice reviewer for the board, you need to have 8 of the last 10 years experience in your practice area. And I'm okay. And living in and practicing in California. But I do want to, so Aaron had mentioned earlier, you had made a comment about like, oh, what about somebody who had been in Washington for 5 years and then has been in California for the last 3 years? The way that's phrased, they wouldn't be able to. So maybe we could say 8 of the last 10 years in your practice area and having practiced in California within the last 2 years or no more than.
Why don't we ask Helen? Helen, do you have any thoughts?
How do we say it 2 years either side? Basically, you have to have been practicing in California for at least the last, like if you were outside of the state and come into the state, you meet all the other requirements, but you've been practicing in California for at least 2 years, then would you meet the eligibility requirements of a reviewer? And or, right, you've left practicing in California. Is that what you mean?
Well, I don't think anyone has said practice in California for at least 2 years
No.
yet.
Right. Okay.
But if we want to, do we want to work that in? So I'm
Let's listen to Helen for just a second. I think she's working on something.
So it seems to me that rather than making like a full motion, we can direct staff to create a draft based upon the discussions that the board can look at.
That sounds awesome. And they can kind of work with you on the language. That sounds great.
This is policy. It's not regulatory. So, I mean, we can do some work on this without having a full board vote on like very specific language. It would be nice to know. I'm sorry, I'm gonna maybe press the issue a little bit.
It's good. Do it.
As the person who has to come up with the language, it would be nice to know. So it sounds like we're clear on let's take in-state, out of it. We're clear on 8 of the last 10 years experience in the area. Okay, so that for sure. And then not having practiced outside of California for more than the most recent 2 years. And we can work on the language for that, but is that the sentiment that everybody agrees with? Okay.
Can we say something like, because you were talking about 8 of these 10 years in your field and practice in California for at least 2 years of your 10 years or something, but we got to figure out to put it in the
And that's the thing is, does the board want to set a minimum amount of years of experience in California, or are you trying to set a maximum amount of years outside of California? Well, can you guys repeat that into the microphone?
I would think it would be a maximum amount of years away from California would be the defining mark.
Yes. Makes sense, yeah. The 2-year gap that we discussed. I said we keep it clean and keep it 2.
Yes.
So I'm gonna bring up another fringe case to consider. Let's say you've practiced in Washington for 7 years. You come to California for 1 year, and then you move back to Washington.
It wouldn't apply because it's
More than
a
2
year in
years out.
California. We said 2.
Well, so you have 7 years experience in Washington, 1 year experience in California, then you move back to Washington, and let's say you move back to Washington 1 year ago. Technically, with what we've come up with, that person would be approved to be a reviewer, even though they've only practiced in California for a total of 1 year.
We said, though, not practicing outside of California for more than 2 years.
More than 2 years total, or are we talking about the most recent 2 years?
Say 2 years total, because you're going to get weird situations.
I see what you're saying. So 8 of 10 in that practice area, and of those 8,
8 of 10 8 of those 10 in California as well.
So
Or of those 8.
It would still be 2.
So the 5 years in Washington and then California for the last 3 that you mentioned earlier, you don't want that person to be a.
Yeah, that's the weird.
So can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Okay. So 8 of 10 in your field.
Yes. Yes.
Of those 8, at least 6 in California.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I can see where then in terms of practice expertise, I'm feeling good about the 6 years because that's about when you become more of an expert in that area, and it would be in that culture of practice in the state you're in, and you're not in a learning phase necessarily, as I'm thinking this out loud. So I'm inclined to agree with you, Austin, hesitantly.
I'm trying to fact check myself and see if I can come up with anybody who could take advantage of that in a way we wouldn't want them to.
Thank you for doing that.
Austin, can I ask a question? It's DP.
Of course.
I'm just wondering if you care whether any of those years are consecutive years or just in total, something to consider.
The consensus was in total, but it wasn't on mic.
Okay, thank
Sorry,
you.
yes, this is Christine. Yes, in total.
Okay, perfect.
The only issue I could see with that is, so 8 of 10 and then 6 of 8 leaves you with a possible not having been practicing in California for 4 years. The most recent 4 years, I should say.
This is legal, if I may.
Thank you. Yes, please.
I'm something. The 8 to 10, is that for the same position, or are we talking like 8 for one type of reviewer and 10 for another?
We're talking years.
Well, no, I
8 of
understand
10
that. But
years.
you set the basis, like whatever's the minimum you're willing to accept. So if it's 8, you set 8. If you put a range 8 to 10, it looks like we would reject anyone who has 12 years experience. So
Sorry.
usually you just set this is the minimum we will accept, and of course anything better works. So that's why
Sorry
I
to
was confused, because
clarify.
8 to 10 seems, I was like, are we talking like 8 for an OT and 10 for an OTA or something? I wanted to see
We're saying
where
8
I was confused.
of 10.
So 8 of 10, but then we're saying 6 of 8.
Yeah, and that's where we get the
So then
total
the
possibility of
range
4.
of experience would be 8 to 10.
So of the 10 most recent years from today,
Mm-hmm.
I would have need to have spent 8 of those last 10 years practicing in this field, consecutive or non-consecutive.
Got it.
And then what we're trying to figure out is, of those 8 years, that's the minimum total experience, how many of them need to have been done in California?
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I got so lost, and I want to make sure I was on the same page. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.
Let's take a break. Let's take a quick break. How long?
As the vice president, that is up to you, but
Let's take
at least 15.
15-minute break, please. Okay, we're back. All right, thank you. Okay, so we're back on the record. We are continuing our discussion about recruiting advanced practice reviewers and expert witnesses. And so we were in the middle of discussion about what the requirements should be for, what are we calling them? Practice reviewers, the expert witness people for enforcement. And we were trying to figure out how much do they have to have been practicing in California. We'd already decided that 8 out of 10 of the past years, they had to have been practicing in that practice area. So I was thinking, I don't think we put this out on the table as an option earlier, but I was thinking, what about just say 8 out of the 10 last 8 out of the 10 last years they had to have been practicing in California? Just make it clean and simple like that. What do people think about this idea? Say it into your mic if you have an opinion.
I agree with that.
Me too. I think it's a little clearer.
Same here.
It makes it easy. Do we have any public opinion on this? We get a thumbs up from OTAC, thumbs up from another public member. Would you like to introduce yourself? You don't have to. We have someone here.
Janie Taguchi Meyer. I'm a coach.
The mic is not on. Oh, it is. Just speak.
Janie Taguchi Meyer. I'm a co-chair of the California Occupational Therapy Fieldwork Council.
Thank you for coming. So Janie was nodding her head in agreement that she thought 8 out of 10 was fine. Ada, what do you think?
With you, yes.
Okay. So I guess we can direct Austin to take that back and work on some language with Helen. And do you have enough, do you think, for that?
Yeah, I think that's enough. And I can make sure with Helen that it's all legally sound. But again, this is policy, so we should be able to just update the requirements on the website and the application, and we should be able to move forward from there.
Okay. And you made a note about the good suggestion about putting this on the front page that we're recruiting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a great idea. Okay, so we're not done with this topic yet. We're still talking about requirements for now advanced practice reviewers. Again, these are the people who review courses for people who are applying to get their advanced practice approval to practice in hand therapy using physical agent modalities and practicing in the area of dysphagia. So right now, at least 5 of the past 7 years practicing in that advanced practice area. We could do something like a parity, say something like at least 5 of the past 7 years having to live in California, if that's agreeable to everyone. It's a little less restrictive, 5 out of 7 as opposed to 8 out of 10. But again, this is just reviewing courses. It's not as in depth. It doesn't require as much knowledge of, what was the term we used before? Culture of practice. I made that up on the spot. I'm so glad everyone liked it. It's just mainly looking at the courses. Do they fit the requirements for the advanced practice area? So any thoughts on 5 out of 7 in that area of practice and 5 out of 7 in California?
I agree with that.
Okay. 5 out of 7. Let's be more clear. Working in California.
Working in California.
I agree.
Ada, any thoughts?
I agree. That does lead me, is the language for the expert witness living in California, and this one is working in California? Or do we say working in all of them?
I think we agreed on working for everything.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment on this? We're getting a thumbs up from OTAC and thumbs up from the Fieldwork Council, or at least from Janie, who is on the Fieldwork Council, but she can't speak for the entire council. Okay. Anybody else? Let's open it up for online comment in case there is any.
This is the moderator. The instructions are on the screen on how to access the hand icon. If you would like to participate, click on the hand raised icon. If you're calling in, *3 to raise your virtual hand. There are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay. So you have enough to work on some language.
I have exactly what I need. Thank you, everybody.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. We got kind of stuck in the weeds there for a minute, but we made our way out. So that was good that we took a break and cleared our minds. Okay. Moving on now to agenda item 8, regulatory update. Again, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Porter.
Thank you. There's not a whole lot of update to provide here other than the board's previously discussed fees package that makes amendments to California Code of Regulations, Section 4130. That has been publicly noticed on the board's website and with the Office of Administrative Law. It is currently in the midst of its 45-day comment period, which ends on May 26th. And then after that, if no adverse comments are received, the board will proceed with a final filing with OIL. We're going to talk about that particular regulatory package a little bit more in the next agenda item. But as far as the general regulatory update goes, that is the only update for now. And we also have, I'll add, our regulatory counsel, DP Miller, who spoke earlier when we were discussing the requirements for the contractors. So she's here as well, and she can correct me if I misstep on any of my dates or timelines. Is there any board discussion about the fees package?
No? Okay. Any public comment? Any online comment?
This is the moderator. The instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on the outline of a hand or *3 from your phone. No requests at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to agenda item 9, discussion and possible action to modify the effective date in the pending rulemaking to amend section 4130 fees of Title 16 of the California Code of Regulations. Mr. Porter.
Thank you. So this is a non-substantive change to the fees language. Essentially, the Office of Administrative Law puts new regulatory changes into effect on a quarterly basis. So there are only certain dates where the regulatory change can take effect. And we're coming up pretty quick here on the next one, which was included in the text for the rulemaking, which I believe was July 1st. Given the timeline that we discussed in the last agenda item, it is possible to still maintain that July 1st effective date. However, it's possible that we may not make that, just depending on how things shake out in the administrative process. So the purpose for this agenda item is just to get authority from the board for me to update that effective date to October 1st of 2026 if we're not able to get things submitted to the Office of Administrative Law in time.
Is the consensus of the board that that's okay? Yeah, everyone's shaking their head, yes? Okay, yes.
I think we might need a motion on that.
Oh, we need a motion on this? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, we need a motion, please.
I move to instruct that the executive officer has the opportunity to change the effective date to October 1st, 2026, as needed based on filing deadlines.
Thank you. We have a motion. We need a second.
I second.
Louis seconded. All right, thank you. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any more discussion? Okay, Ada, call the vote, please.
Aaron Schwer.
I apologize. Public comment, please.
Oh,
Okay, public comment? Open to online comment?
This is the moderator. Instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on the outline of a hand. No requests at this time.
Janie, did you have a comment? Okay. All right, Ada, call the vote, please.
Aaron Schwer.
Yes.
Vicky Santos.
Yes.
Matthew Greco absent. Louis Arabit.
Yes.
Ada Boone Hurl, yes. Christine Whitlisbach.
Yes.
Beata Marcos absent.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right. Moving on to agenda item number 10. Discussion and possible action to consider initiation of a rulemaking to amend sections 4180 definitions and 4181 supervision parameters of Title 16 of California Code of Regulations. Mr. Porter.
Thank you. This is another carryover from our previous meeting. Those who were in attendance there will recall a very robust discussion about these regulatory changes, but I think we ended in a good place at the end of that meeting. Regulatory Council and I went back and took those suggestions and we worked on the language to fine tune it, and I think we've landed somewhere pretty good. I'll just go through the language as it is in the materials. So the changes to the law as written, today's law as it is, are indicated by underlines and strikeouts. Changes to the text that are in addition to what was presented at the last meeting are highlighted. So I'll start off by addressing the concern that OTAC had brought up at the last meeting, being the definition of direct supervision as it pertains to the supervision of level 2 fieldwork students. And before I get into that definition, I'll comment that the term direct supervision is only used in these regulatory sections twice. Once in reference to supervision of level 2 fieldwork students, and once again in reference to faculty-led fieldwork. So keep in mind that when we discuss this direct supervision definition, it only pertains to those two particular scenarios. So going down the list of definitions in 4180, we see 4180C, direct supervision means that there is a direct line of sight between the supervising occupational therapy practitioner and the student. Further down in what is now subsection E, we define a level 2 fieldwork student, and we add to that definition Supervision of level 2 field work shall be direct and then decrease to less direct supervision as appropriate for the setting, the severity of the client's condition, and the ability of the student to support progression toward entry-level competence, which is in line with what ACOT's definition is. I think maybe before we go on to discuss other portions of the bill, maybe we can just discuss that sort of in isolation.
I believe this captures what we discussed last time, and I think it's appropriate. Other board members have any comments?
I agree. I think the new language does represent what we were robustly discussing.
Let's open up to public comment. We can also do online and here in front of us. Moderator.
This is the moderator. The instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on the outline of a hand. Kristen, I'm going to send a request to mute your microphone.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. My only comment on this is I know this whole project has been a long time coming, and board members have come and gone, and Mr. Porter is now here, and it started under Ms. Martin. And I appreciate all your work on this. I pulled out our comment letter from your meeting in 2024. I remember that I flew out to your meeting and joined it with Samia from OTAC. And I appreciate that you clarified under the definition of level 2 field work that the supervision shall be direct and then tail off in accordance with ACOTE. So that is something I recall we asked for. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that you included that clarification, and thank you.
Thank you. Samia?
Yeah, just agree completely with Kristen, and thank you very much. This clarification looks great.
Thank you.
This is the moderator. No additional requests.
Okay. Janie, did you want to say?
I did want to ask, I have not been witness to the previous, I have not been witness to the previous discussions, but I wanted a little bit clarification of what faculty-led fieldwork means. I know it's defined, but it's not clear to me.
That might be better answered by somebody who's an educator up here.
Well, it's right here. It's on. It's on page 2. Faculty-led fieldwork means a fieldwork completed under direct supervision of a licensed occupational therapist or occupational therapy assistant employed by an accredited California educational institution.
And the intended around the discussion around this was intended to be able to support those fieldwork experiences, primarily level 1 fieldwork experiences, is really what we were looking at, related to how we have to partner with community partners and provide a lot of opportunities. So it encompasses simulation and those types of things as well.
Okay, thank you. Also wanted to just ask, direct supervision means that it's the direct line of sight between the supervising occupational therapy practitioner and the student. There are models in which students can go to emerging practice sites, which in accordance with ACOTE standards, their fieldwork educator needs to provide a direct supervision a minimum of 8 hours a week. And so there are a number of opportunities for students in emerging practices that are like that, but they don't have direct supervision, direct line of sight for 40 hours. So the direct definition of direct supervision just sort of raised a flag for me. Just wanted to put that out there.
I think the intended language that and forgive me if I'm overstepping, but the intended language around the direct supervision here was to be in accordance with what was to more intentionally align with the ACOTE expectations. And so it would be up to the supervising OT to determine at what point the student was safe to be on their own.
Okay.
If you look at Yeah, I'm just going to add on to that. That's absolutely correct. On the bottom of page 1, if you see some underlining, supervision of level 2 field work shall be direct and then decrease to less supervised. So that kind of covers what she just said. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
There's no prescribed timeline for that. Other than that, it's at the discretion of the supervising practitioner, and that they would be responsible. So
Okay. Thank you. My concern was that the direct supervision would preclude these sort of innovative models of supervision. So I appreciate the clarification.
Did you want to move on to a different change?
yeah,
Okay.
it seems like we're okay with that one. So I will point out at the beginning of page 2, what is now subsection G, faculty-led fieldwork. This used to say means a fieldwork completed under direct in-site supervision. Well, in-site or that direct line of sight is incorporated within the definition of direct supervision. So it's redundant to have that there. So this just says direct supervision now. I don't think that will be too controversial. And that's all we have for our definitions. Those are the changes since the last time this was discussed. Moving on to section 4181, we did add in appropriate supervision by a supervising occupational therapist. This is just to create some parity with the other subsections. The other subsections always kind of specify who's doing the supervising and of whom. So this just clarifies supervision by a supervising occupational therapist of an occupational therapy assistant includes at a minimum. There is another change down on subdivision 2, which talks about documentation of direct client care provided by the supervising occupational therapy or occupational therapist. That word provided was not there previously, and it has been added to make it clear that the documentation is of the care that the OT provides. Moving on to subdivision 4, we just removed the space of between on and site because on site is used earlier in the language, and it does not have a space. It's just one word, so we just want to use the same word for consistency. Does anyone have any comments or questions about subdivision A and those new changes?
None from board members, I see. Ada, no. Okay, we're open up for public comment, including online, moderator.
This is the, excuse me, this is the moderator. The instructions will be shown on the screen shortly. If you would like to participate, click on the outline of a hand to raise your hand or *3 to raise your virtual hand from a phone. At this time, there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. No more comment. Okay. All right. Louis, did you? Okay, he's just reading out loud to himself. Okay.
Who's reading ahead?
Okay, well, let's move on to the next. Is there any more?
Not for me. I mean, well, there's more, not on this part.
Yeah, okay.
There's more
Gotcha.
parts.
Yeah, I understand. Yes.
Moving on to subdivision V or B, we've replaced an or with an and just to ensure that that's inclusive there. Then we move on to subsection D. This is where the bulk of our discussion focused at the last meeting, so I think it's important to take a look at this. What we have attempted to do here is make clear that of these categories of supervisees, an occupational therapy assistant may supervise no more than a total of 3 individuals from the following categories in any combination at any one time. And that, I think, was sort of the key distinction that we were looking for at the last meeting and making sure that we were all in consensus about that. Another small change is that subdivision 1, aids and client related tasks. Previously, this said aids providing client related tasks. This has been updated to aids performing client related tasks. Just for clarity, they don't provide the tasks, they perform them. Moving down to subsection E, occupational therapy assistants may supervise no more than 20 level 1 fieldwork students in a faculty-led fieldwork, with the addition now that supervision under this subsection shall also comply with subsection D above it. And what that addition changes is that, sure, you can have 20 level 1 fieldwork students in a faculty-led fieldwork, but no more than 3 of them can become engaged in client-related tasks. So that's why it's important that we have that line of sight, so you can make sure that all 20 in your fieldwork, your faculty-led fieldwork, no more than 3 of them get assigned some client-related tasks, which should be incidental at level 1. Subsection F is the same as it was previously, other than that, the word providing has been swapped out with performing in F2. Do we have any board comments or questions before we move on to subsection G? Ada?
Sorry.
We're going to take public comment on all this at the end. So if you have comments, hold your thoughts.
Perfect. Moving on to subsection G, this is for whom occupational therapists may supervise. So it's going to look very familiar to subsection D. Again, we've added individuals from the following categories in any combination at any one time. Aids have been added back in as they were missing in the last version of the language. And then subsection H makes it clear that in addition to the groups and categories in subsection G, occupational therapists may supervise no more than 3 occupational therapy assistants. So that just makes it clear that those additional, so aides, fieldwork students, limited permit holders, et cetera, are not cutting into the number of occupational therapists that an OT can supervise. Oh, sorry. Yes. And I believe that is again, another instance of providing being swapped out with performing in I. But I believe that is the final addition to the language since the last time this was before the board.
Thank you. Any board discussion on this language? Okay, we're going to open it up to public comment, both here and online.
This is the moderator. The instructions are on the screen. Click on the outline of a hand to raise your hand if you would like to participate. Kristen, I'll send a request to unmute your microphone.
Hi again, everyone. Kristen Neville from AOTA. Again, I have very great appreciation for all your work on this. And I think some of our suggested edits were incorporated. But I did have a couple points of clarification, if I may. One, I know it sounds like you spoke quite a bit at your last meeting about what you mean by the phrase "at any one time." Could you explain what your intent with that means? Like, does that mean any 1 minute, an hour, or semester? Because I remember the conversation in 2024, someone spun a scenario where you could have an OT supervising 3 individuals, and one of their supervisees, goes off to treat patients, and then a student or someone comes in and says, I need someone to supervise me. Does that mean that they can't tell that person, sorry, I have 3 people I'm supervising. They're not in my physical space right now, but you're going to have to find someone else? Or does that mean they're not physically there at that minute. Yes, I can supervise you. I hope I'm not overcomplicating it, but could you give me a little clarification on what you mean by at any one time? And I'm apologize, I wasn't at your last meeting where you may have when you had that discussion.
That's okay. If any of the other if any of the board members have additions to what I'm about to say, by all means. But I think the bulk of the discussion last time focused not so much. We did talk about what at any one time meant, but I think the main clarification we were seeking at the last meeting was the previous version of this language. Some of those categories said at any one time, while others did not. And it was unclear why some of them had them or some of them didn't. I think what we determined and what's represented in the language here is that all of those categories have at any one time applied to them. As far as what is meant by at any one time, I think it really is like minute by minute, because I think any of these subcategories, if we look at example for like D, the occupational therapy assistants may supervise, fieldwork students directly engaged in client related tasks. Well, that's, you're in the room with them, supervising them. Same thing for level 2 occupational therapy assistant students. You may not necessarily be in the room, but OTAs don't supervise other practicing OTAs, so it's not really cutting into that limit, right? I don't think there's any situation where having that strict of a definition of at any one time precludes you from supervising anybody just because you're not in the room with somebody. I think all these people, if you're not in the room with them, you're not really supervising them. No?
Well,
Other than level 2. Oh, and limited permit holders.
I'm going to let the educators talk about this. Okay. Well, I'll talk about it. My take on it is when you're supervising someone, you're supervising them all day long, whether they're in the room or not, because you're responsible for what they're doing all day long, whether you're in there or not. So my interpretation, and I could be wrong, is that at any one time means as long as they're on the clock or at that facility treating patients. That's my take on it. But
or assigned under that facility. Like fieldwork students or licensees or right?
Or they're in the facility
there,
treating
yeah.
patients. Clients.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about the practice, not the room.
Not the room, but at the
at the facility.
At the facility or at the organization, even if it's at another
that you're responsible
building,
for. That
you're
your
responsible
your
for.
license is responsible for.
Right.
Okay.
That day. Yes. Samia?
I remember an example from a few years ago. It's hard to believe it was a few years ago, but it was like, let's say a university sends students, Kristen, maybe this will help you. Let's say a university sends students to a fieldwork site on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And let's say you're assigned to 6 students. You get 3 of them on Tuesday and 3 of them on Thursday. You would still be allowed to do that because that any one time allows the Tuesday versus Thursday.
Okay. I remember that scenario as well, Samia. Thank you for bringing that back to mind. Okay. I'm inclined to agree with Mr. Porter that there could be the scenario I spun is not likely to happen. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear, and I don't mean to belabor this conversation further, but I don't know if you might want to add some clarity to what at any one time means, but I was just curious for my own edification. The other item, if I may, that I was hoping to get clarification on is, and this is something that we really had a significant concern about in 2024, and I think Mr. Porter addressed it, but I just want to be certain that I'm clear. The addition of item H means that an OTA or an OT can supervise 3 OTAs. They can also supervise 3 level 2 fieldwork students or 3 level 1s, or any combination of the folks in G. So it's not a strict limit of 3. It's 3 OTAs and 3 of everything else in G. Is that what the board's intent is? I see folks nodding. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very helpful, because our concern at the time, if you recall, was if you limit it to 3 of everything, it makes it hard for OTAs to find a supervisor. OTs may not want to supervise, may not want to bother, because it's just too complicated with all the restrictions. So I think that I think that's very helpful. So thank you so much for that clarification.
Thank you for the question. Any other discussion, comments?
So the H is in addition to the G. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to sure.
And in those committee meetings, the intention was never to lump the OTA, who is a licensed practitioner, in with other practitioners who not yet had a license. So this was returning language to clarify the distinction between upcoming, other students effectively versus a licensed practitioner.
8 is correct.
Austin, can I make one comment going back to at any one time?
Of course.
This is DB Reg Council. I also want to note that, the fact that there's a definition of direct supervision, though that's the only instance where it's saying there's a requirement for being in line of sight. And so the hope there is that it's clear that there's other types of supervision depending on the person being supervised. And so those would not be in line of sight. And that kind of goes to the point of you might have responsibility for supervising them all day, even if they are in another room and you're checking in and out. And at the end of the day, it's under your license.
Yes, thank you. Yes. I think we're all in agreement with the language, it looks like. One last call for comments. Anybody?
This is the moderator. No requests online.
Thank you. Louis has something to say.
Going back to the direct supervision, the language and letter E. It says supervision a level 2 fieldwork shall be direct and then decrease to less direct supervision. Is that the proper language, or is this the language we're adopting from ACOT?
I believe that's pulled straight out of the ACOT standards.
I see.
It is.
Thank you.
So what do we need with this?
This one, we need the big long motion, which is in the memo, if anyone feels so inclined to make a motion.
Sorry, where's the memo? I'm sorry.
It's the preceding document.
Oh, gotcha.
On the backside.
I got you. Who wants to do that? Louis? Oh, okay. Or okay.
I move to approve the proposed regulatory text for sections 4180 and 4181 as amended during the meeting as presented. Directs staff to submit the text to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review. And if no adverse comments are received, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for a hearing if requested. If no adverse comments are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at Section 4102 of Title 16, California Code of Regulations, as noticed, with the authority to make any technical or non-substantive changes. just a clarification. As I move as amended during the meeting, as presented in the language, as the language presented. As presented.
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Are there any more comment? Is there any more discussion by board members? Any more public comment? Moderator. Moderator, can you please open up for public comment online?
Thank you. Sorry about the delay there.
It's okay.
This is the moderator. The instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on the outline of a hand. Kristen, I'm going to send a request to mute your microphone.
I just wanted to say a final thank you to you, to the board, for listening to us and incorporating our concerns and hearing our concerns throughout this process. So I agree, we've got a good product. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is the moderator. There are no additional requests.
Okay. Ada, please call the vote.
Aaron Schwer,
Yes.
Vicky Santos,
Yes.
Matthew Greco absent, Louis Arabit,
Yes.
Ada Boone Hurl, yes, Christine Whittlesbach,
Yes.
Beata Marcos absent.
Okay, 1 second, please. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. All right. So we didn't get to agenda item 11 and 12. However, we have a 1:30 hearing in close. Oh, no, it's open. The hearing's open at 1:30. And we need to be on time for that. So we need to take a break for lunch. So we are going to move agenda items 11 and 12 to tomorrow. And we are going to break for lunch and reconvene here at 1:30. I'll open it up and I'll turn it over to you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, are we back on now? Okay, so we're back on the record. We're back from lunch. Today is Thursday, May 21st, 2026. It's 1:30 p.m. I'm Dr. Christine Whittlesbach, Vice President of the Board, and we are here now for a hearing, and I'm going to turn it over to the judge.
Good afternoon, everybody. First, I'm sorry, I have to speak in the mic, so and I'm holding the mic as we're doing this, which is fine. Mr. Milana, can you identify yourself as our court reporter for today, please, sir? Certified court. And good afternoon, Mr. Milana. So we're on the record in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation filed by Sabrina Sabet, petitioner, OAH case number 2026-040-486, agency case number 710-2021-000976. This matter is being heard before a quorum of the Board of Occupational Therapy at the University St. Augustine for Health Sciences in San Marcos. Before we proceed further, I'd like the board members who are present, including one board member who's appearing remotely, to identify him or herself for the record, please.
Virginia Santos, board member.
Christine Whittlesbach, Vice President of the Board.
Luis Arabit, board member.
Aaron Schwer, board member.
Ada Boone Hurl, secretary.
And did that pick up there? That she's appearing remotely? Is what she said?
Hello? Are you?
We can hear you. We cannot see you. Is your
my video is on. It is, oh, okay, I know what the problem. My apologies. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
So the board member who's appearing remotely is Ada Boone Hurl, and it is 1:33 p.m. And as I mentioned, this matter is taking place at the University of St. Augustine for Health Sciences in San Marcos, California. My name is Abe Levy. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings of the state of California, and I'll be presiding over the petition in this matter. In that regard, I'll develop the hearing record and rule on any evidentiary issues that may arise. May I have the appearances of the Deputy Attorney General first, please?
Good afternoon. Molly Selway, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Ms. Sabet, can you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Sabrina Sabet.
And good afternoon, Ms. Sabet and Ms. Selway. With regard to Ms. Sabet's petition, we'll proceed as follows. The Deputy Attorney General will present the matter first with the petition and jurisdictional documents, even though Ms. Sabet has the burden of proof in this matter. After the Attorney General presents the jurisdictional documents and petition, Ms. Sabet may present her case and testimony. After the parties present their respective cases, unless the record is open for any reason, the record will be closed and the board will meet in closed session to decide the case. The board's decision will not be made today. That decision will be made in executive session, and the board will transmit that decision after it is submitted. So with that, Ms. Selway, I note that I am in possession of the proposed hearing record in this matter, which includes the following documents: the notice of hearing, license certification, petition for early termination, petition summary, and the decision in order as sequenced, as paginated. It's Z1 to Z44. So first, Ms. Selway, do you wish to offer the petition bundle into the record?
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to offer the entire petition as Exhibit 1.
Any objection, Ms. Sabet, to the petition being admitted? I don't think you would have
No
an objection.
objection.
Okay, no objection. Exhibit 1 is admitted with the documents as indicated. And so with that, Ms. Selway, do you wish to say anything before Ms. Sabet presents her case?
Yes, I'd like to offer a summary of the case. Petition was first issued occupational therapy license number OT 18366 on February 8th, 2018. The board filed an accusation on May 9th, 2013, based upon fraudulent and dishonest and corrupt acts for documenting that she provided occupational therapy services when in fact she had not completed those sessions. This is a violation of Business and Professions Code Section 2570.28, subdivision H. In addition, the accusation included a cause for discipline for falsifying or making grossly incorrect entries of record in violation of Code Section 2570.28, subdivision K. Specifically, in connection with one patient, the petitioner documented that she completed 3 visits that had not occurred. For another patient, she documented that she completed 8 sessions, which did not occur. Petition entered into a stipulated settlement, which was effective on October 10th, 2024, in which petitioner was placed on 2 years probation. Petitioner's probation was told for 166 days for non-practice. Otherwise, petition has been complying with all terms of probation. She has timely paid her costs in full and has completed all of her continuing education requirements. At this time, it's petitioner's burden to demonstrate that her probation should be terminated early. Therefore, we have nothing further at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Selway. So, Ms. Sabet, how do you wish to proceed? I take it you'd like to testify, in which case I'll swear you in. Do you want to testify, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Okay. So please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the state of California that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state and spell your full name for the record.
Sabrina Sabet, Sabrina,
Sabet.
Okay. You may proceed, and you can say what you like as far as why you believe the board should grant your petition.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me today. Honestly, it's really hard to hear about all of this because I mean, I know you guys don't know me, but I've never done anything wrong my whole life. And, you know, I I like to say that I have a lot of integrity, and whoever knows me knows I'm a very honest person. And I made a big mistake. Um, it all started during COVID. I was a new practitioner, and I got a job with Playtastic Pediatric Therapy. And I didn't know much about like billing, and I just felt like trusting my supervisor was the way to go. And what I learned was that you're allowed to back bill when you see patients. And if you can't see them, you would bill for it, but see them later. And during the month of April, I jumped from 6 clients to about 20. And um, it was a really hard time. There was teletherapy, which was new. Clients were having a hard time joining me on Zoom with their children. So my boss told me, like, you can do activity sheets or do a quick phone call, and you can back bill and, you know, make up those hours later. So I was under the impression that that was okay, but I do take full responsibility for it. I should have asked more questions. I should have done more research on it. There was a lot of negligence on my end, and, you know, not knowing enough about billing as well. I do take full responsibility for that. You know, now looking back, I see, you know, how unethical it was, and um, you know, how the families were really upset about it. Um, and I never want to be in that position again. Ever since then, I've been making sure to cross my T's, dot my I's. I ask a lot of questions. I make sure that I'm doing everything correctly with my supervisor, with the office manager, with the owner of the clinic. I've made relationships with other occupational therapists to make sure what I'm doing is always correct, because I never want to be in this situation again. It's been really hard for me the past 5 years. I've felt a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of embarrassment. But I do talk about my story because I don't want anyone to relive what I went through, especially new OTs who don't know enough about billing, just like myself, because I really didn't learn a lot in school. And again, I'm not making excuses. Like, what I did was wrong, and I take full responsibility for it, and I'm taking ownership. But I want you guys to know that it was not done on purpose. It was not done to rob children of their therapy sessions, because I went into this field for the purpose of only helping and helping people, not for the status, not for the money. I would never jeopardize my license over, you know, the amount of money that I think it was like, I don't even know exactly, $1,000, but I actually did not accept $1 from that whole month from my boss. I told her I don't even want to take it. And I'm saying all of this because I never got to share my story, to be honest, and I've been like holding it in. My settlement just came with my attorney going back and forth, and just one meeting online with an investigator, which I was able to share some of my story with him. But I want to share that with you all as well today, just so you know where I'm coming from. And I know you don't know me personally, but that's my story. And I'm very nervous right now. Sorry. Thank you.
Question for you. Yeah, I have to repeat that. I apologize. At this point, I'll see if Ms. Selway has any questions for Ms. Sabet, and then after Ms. Selway asks the question, she asks, the board members may ask questions. So Ms. Selway.
Okay. Your probation is going to end in approximately March 25th of 2027. Why do you need probation to end early?
I feel like I've done everything I can to make sure that I'm never in the situation I was with billing, documentation. I've learned a lot. I've come a long way. And to be honest, where I'm at right now, I feel like I'm not growing professionally. I feel like I could grow a lot more in another setting, as well as hopefully pursuing my dreams of opening up my own practice soon. Financially, it's been a little bit hard as well. When uh, clients cancel a lot, they have children. I have kids myself, and they go to OT and speech as well, and I have to cancel sometimes, so I get it. But I don't get paid for those sessions, and it's been a little bit hard financially. My husband has had to pay for like the investigation and the lawsuits, and it would be nice if I could go off on my own, see private clients, maybe go into the home health setting also. It would be a tremendous help if I could, you know, do all those things.
But what part of probation is limiting you from furthering your career?
I need to have a supervisor, so that means I can't go on my own professionally, and I cannot do home health setting. Those two are not allowed. Therefore, I have to be where I'm at for the rest of the probation, and I don't have room to grow elsewhere.
What have you changed in your practices to ensure that these mistakes won't happen again?
I do meet with Janine, my probation monitor, like on the phone. At least every month. I make sure to ask her a lot of questions regarding my billing, my documentation. If something sounds weird to me, I make sure to run it by her first to see if it's okay to do or not. I also meet with my supervisor, who's an occupational therapist, to make sure what I'm doing is correct with my interventions, with my documentation, with my billing. So I just have multiple people holding me accountable to make sure that I'm turning everything in on time. And I'm not leaving any room for error.
It sounds like you're really reliant upon that supervisor relationship, which actually sounds very important. So why should the board then get rid of that requirement? It seems like it's something that's actually very useful for you.
I'm doing that, especially right now because, you know, I'm on probation. So I want to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly. However, when my probation is over, I feel like it'll be much easier to take it upon myself at that point to bill correctly, document correctly. And I feel like I've reached that point right now.
I reviewed the accusation, and I've read your application, and it's unclear for me if you are billing incorrectly or charting incorrectly. Can you explain which one was incorrect or both, and what the differences are?
You mean prior to my probation?
Correct. Like during the accusation, I had a hard time between your explanation and what was alleged. Was it incorrect billing or incorrect charting?
It was mostly incorrect billing because I was not supposed to bill for sessions that were not rendered until until the client was actually seen. So mostly billing, I would say.
And now, do you understand the importance of accurate billing?
Yes.
And also accurate charting?
Yes, I do. I make sure to write everything down after my session, document on time, write down all the interventions, what I talked about with the parents, what I did with the child, just so I have no mistakes and I can always look back at my notes to see what I did with the client. And there's no room for miscommunication or error.
Okay.
Yes.
Outside of the supervising requirement, what other terms of probation are you finding it difficult to comply with?
I'm not having a hard time with much, to be honest, outside of probation. I just feel like it's limiting my ability to grow as an occupational therapist where I'm at. And I feel like I could grow more somewhere else. However, it's really hard to find a job that's fitting for me due to my probation and for people to like accept me into their clinic or, you know, to hire me.
Okay. And I know it's in your application, but just where are you currently employed?
Right now, I'm at LA Speech Therapy Solutions. Before that, I was at Nurture Collective. I had to leave due to the distance. It was really far from my home. And then I did recently get hired at Vita Kids Therapy. However, they don't have enough occupational therapy hours for me to fulfill my probation. Therefore, we're on hold until after this hearing to touch base with them again and to see if they have enough hours for me.
Okay. And how long have you been employed with your current employer?
1 year.
1 year. Okay. I don't believe I have any further questions. I'll turn it over to the board.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to the boards, starting with the executive director. Do you have any questions?
I'm the vice president.
Vice President, I apologize.
It's okay. That's okay. Executive
I'm
director.
getting everybody's
It's
names wrong.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. I'm going to kind of piggyback on a question that Ms. Selway asked you. And you did answer it and you gave a good answer, but still more. Did you say you might want to go into private practice? Is that
Yeah.
one of the things you might want to do? And maybe home health, you said.
Yes.
Okay. So moving forward, because I've been in practice over 30 years, and sometimes I even still have questions about billing or documentation, like, hey, you know what do you think? And so I know who I go to. I go to my manager and I have, questions and ask. So do you have any plan for a support system or a network of people moving forward, particularly in private practice or in home health, where you might reach out to if you had this kind of questions?
Yes, if I did go out on like for myself or private practice, I would make sure to hire like a office manager, someone who has a lot of experience in billing and who understands the ins and outs of billing. Because at the end of the day, obviously I don't think I would ever work with insurance because I feel like there's a lot of gray area with insurance that I don't want to cross paths with. So if I did go out on my own, it would be probably to work with the regional center and private clients. And with regional center, I do know a lot now. Like I know what counts as a session. I know what doesn't count as a session. I understand that each regional center has its own rules with billing. Like the South Central Regional Center, for example, allows activity sheets to count as a session, whereas West Side Regional Center does not. The regional center needs the client to be present in a teletherapy session, whereas insurance might not. So there's a lot of little, what's the word?
Nuances?
Nuances that, are involved with billing, insurance companies, regional center. And that's something I've learned, after this whole situation. Before that, I really didn't know anything about it. And I feel like I know enough now, and I'd make sure to have all the proper people to help me.
I think that's a good plan because, as you know, things are always changing, right?
Yeah.
Like we learn it and then we have a handle on it and then they change things, right? So
Right.
there's always.
And another thing that I want to bring up with the regional center, which is, where I was working with Playtastic Pediatric Therapy, the owner has a relationship with the regional center, and then the owner tells the therapist what to do. So the therapists are not involved with the regional center. They're not aware of like what's right, what's wrong, what's considered ethical, what's not considered ethical. So we listen to our supervisor. But I've learned to go out of my way to call the regional center if I do have any questions because I truly never want to be in this situation again. I make sure all the therapists that work with me are aware of my situation. I've shared it with them, the speech therapists, the OTs. I've talked about it with my son's physical therapist. So this is not something that I hide. I like to share it with people, even though it's really uncomfortable. It's embarrassing. I feel super guilty and ashamed. Like I said, I still feel like it's my duty to share it with especially new therapists because it could happen to anyone.
I think it's a good service to tell other people. Well, thank you. I have no more questions.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any of the board members?
So I want to ask Louis Arabit, board member. So all these sessions that you build and apparently didn't provide the service, this happened through telerehabilitation?
This was via teletherapy during COVID. We were not seeing the children in person. They were online.
Okay.
And during that time, it was, I mean, we all remember the pandemic. We were just trying to survive, really. But it was hard to get the parents to come in on the session. So I was just doing my best to, help them as much as possible and listening to my supervisor when she said you could do a phone call with them, you can send an activity sheet. You can back bill and see them after the billing period is over. So I was just doing my best to make sure that I was seeing them, but clearly that was not the best, way to go about it. It was better to just either see them or not see them and count it as a session or not a session.
So all these sessions were individual or group?
They were individual sessions.
Okay. And you had the notion and you were told by your supervisor that you can back bill these sessions even
Yes.
if they didn't happen.
Yes, and I don't know if you guys have seen, I don't know what it would be called. I know we have the stipulated agreement, but before that, there were some other documents where I had like a lot of messages with my boss, and that's why I have probation and they didn't revoke my license because they were able to see the evidence in which I was told to, listen to my supervisor. But again, I take blame for it. I shouldn't have done that. That was my fault for not, looking deeper into it and not asking more questions. It did feel a little weird to me, but I thought it was okay because at the end of the day, she's an occupational therapist. She's my supervisor. I'm a new therapist. I'm thinking I should just listen to what she has to tell me.
So those back billing, were you able to at least see the patients?
So what happened was it was only for the month of April, this particular back billing. She ended up reaching out to regional center due to a parent complaining that I didn't see their child. And she pretty much, for better words, threw me under the bus before it escalated to anything else, in which the board stopped. What's the word? The board opened up their investigation. I was no longer working after that. And sorry, what was your question? I just had it.
I was asking you if you were able to provide the services because you said that you were back
No, I
billing.
wasn't able to provide their services because I was
Because-
no longer working for her, and
I
the
see.
board and the regional center started their investigation. So I was no longer seeing the family.
And your intention was to provide those
Yes.
services if the board didn't
Correct. In May.
intervene. Okay.
Yes.
Intervene, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
My esteemed colleagues asked a lot of the same questions that I had.
I'm
so I
sorry.
don't wanna
Can you-
I'm Erin
sorry-
Schweer,
I'm
board
sorry.
member.
Can you just identify yourself? for the
Erin
record?
Schweer, board member. I too have similar follow-up questions just to assure the continuation beyond, because as was mentioned, right, you do a lot of proactive question asking now and checking, and you've built this support system surrounding. And so what do you plan to do to sustain that support was one of my questions. You answered it pretty well with that. My question now goes to not just upholding the legal requirements of, whoever your third party pair, your regional centers, making sure your documentation is right, making sure your billing is accurate, but about how you've developed and learned in terms of yourself as an ethical, autonomous practitioner. So when you're in those sessions, knowing that you're providing good care. So if regional center allows an activity sheet to count as treatment, is that good for your client? And where are you in terms of your own decision-making and judgment in those moments?
As an occupational therapist working with children primarily, I have realized how important it is to educate the parents more than anything else, because I see their children maybe once a week for like 45 minutes to an hour. And beyond that is them working with their children at home or in the community. So I do think activity sheets could be helpful along with follow-up phone call or a Zoom session if they can't make it to their session. So that would entail an activity, which would be broken down into how you do the activity, what it would be working on. And after they do the activity at home with their child, we can talk about it. So how did it go? Did you give them assistance? Did you not give them assistance? Oh, for next time, you can upgrade the activity and do this, or you could downgrade the activity and do this. Because at the end of the day, I want them to be their child's OT also. And I learned that through teletherapy during COVID. And I guess that's something that I take away from COVID. It did open up my eyes to the fact that I am an occupational therapist and I'm trying to make a difference in the child's life, but I'm also trying to teach the parent or the caregiver how to work with the child, because I can only do so much once a week. They have to do the rest. And right now I have 2 little boys who need PT and OT, feeding therapy, and I can see how hard it is. Like, I'm telling them to do all these things, and then when it comes to me, I'm having a hard time doing it myself, because there's so much going on in your life. It's not just like being a mom, but you have work, you have all these relationships, and there's a lot of stressors. So I always make sure to tell the parents to do their absolute best, but I do understand that at the end of the day, they can only do so much, but I'm here to help them.
Thank you for that. And as just a follow-up, how have you developed in your own ethical decision making so that when you know something, you had made a comment that you felt like something was off, but you
Yeah.
deferred to listening to your boss? How I guess I'd like some assurance that you've developed a method of you're not going to
Do that again.
What do you do when you're feeling,
Yeah,
that way?
something I've learned myself throughout the 5 years since this happened, or 6 years, I can't even remember, May 2021 or 5 years. It's hard for me to say no. It's hard for me to put boundaries with people. That's just a characteristic that I, struggled with, but I've been a lot better with that. I make a conscious effort to say no to something that doesn't feel right, put up boundaries with people, and ask more questions, and to trust my intuition, because that goes a long way. In the past, I've ignored it a lot, and I've done what someone has told me to do without really feeling good about it. But now I feel like throughout the years since this happened, there have been other situations that have come up in my personal life where if something makes me feel uncomfortable, I'm able to say, sorry, I can't do that. That makes me uncomfortable. I'm able to ask more questions about something, and to just trust my instincts and intuition and my life experiences more to make the right choice. And as a human being, we all make mistakes, but it's what we do after that really counts. And I feel like I've done hopefully enough to show you guys that that mistake won't happen again.
I'm sorry, do any other board members have any questions?
You have nothing, Ada? Okay.
Okay. So if no other board members have any questions for Ms. Sabet. So anything else, Ms. Sabet, you wish to say?
No, I just really appreciate you guys hearing me out today. And I thank you for your time.
Now, I note that your husband's at the right of you here at the table. Do you wish him to testify or say anything?
Would you like to say something?
Sure, I can do it.
Well, I'm gonna have to swear. I'll have to swear you in, so the board can consider what you have to say. So please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury of the state of California that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state and spell your full name for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Daniel Sabet, Daniel, last name Sabet. Is that better?
I'm sorry. Mr. Sabet, what would you like to say?
I think one question that you had was, why she wants to end the probation so early, with probation going to be ending around the corner. I think you said it's going to be February or March. One thing I can say is I've known her for almost 7 years now, and when I first met her, she told me she was an occupational therapist. She told me how much she loves it. She had dreams of uh, starting her own clinic, helping people. That's what she loves to do, and that's always been her thing. Is that she's so caring about everybody. She puts everyone before herself, and this has been a very hard time for her, especially, she's already talked about the fact that she's ashamed, embarrassed, that this is not within her character. And, you know, financially, this has been tough for us as well, with all the legal costs and then, the recovery costs that we had to pay. And also with the probation, it was hard to find a good job. She spent months trying to find a good job. She found one, it was way too far away, and then she found another one that was a little closer. And financially, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just not paying very well. And I think maybe because she's on probation, it's not paying very well, and it's not. And some of the stuff that she was doing in the past, like home health, it does pay a little better, and it's better for our family. And then also just her starting her own clinic, which I know that's her main dream. That would be a lot more financially feasible for our family. So I think from my perspective and from hers as well, besides the fact that she wants to help all these people and go on her own and have more flexibility, the financial aspect also of just being able to start her real career, the career she sought out to do 5 years ago. If we could do that sooner rather than later, that would help our family a lot.
Okay, any questions, Ms. Sully? Any questions for Mr. Sabet by any of the board members? Don't think anyone has any questions for you, Mr. Sabet. So thank you for your testimony.
You're welcome.
At this point, anything else, Ms. Sabet, you wish to present or say?
Not today. Thank you so much for your time.
So at this point, I'll turn it over to Ms. Selway as a matter of making any closing statements the Attorney General wishes to make, and then Ms. Sabet, you can say something by way of closing if you wish, including obviously any recommendation the Attorney General might have.
The Attorney General has no recommendation on this matter. Petitioner presented well, and it's up to the board to decide.
Ms. Sabet, do you wish to say anything by way of closing?
I hope in this short time, you are all able to see, where I stand and where I'm coming from. And this will never happen again. I will never, ever, ever, go, what's the word? I'm sorry. My, sorry. I'm trying to gather my thoughts. I didn't sleep last night. Moving forward in my own life and in my professional life, I can guarantee there will not be any situation where I, bill for something that I'm not supposed to bill for, or do anything to rob anyone of their therapy sessions or whatnot. At the end of the day, all I want to do is honestly help people, help families, help their children. And for me, it's really not about the money. It's more so about helping kids live the best lives they can live as well as adults. And I truly came into this field because I loved it. And it took me a while to figure out what I even wanted to do with my profession. So I thought a lot about it before going into the OT field, and did a lot of research, a lot of volunteering, a lot of observing. And truly, it's my calling. My license means the world to me. And this will never happen again. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, I'm going to close the record, deem the matter submitted, and the parties will receive the board's decision accordingly. So I want to thank Ms. Selway and Ms. Sabat for their presentations here, and the matters closed and deemed submitted.
Thank you so much.
And Mr. Milana, I need to get some items from you, so we're off the record.
Okay, thank you. We are,
And your CSR number again. 13912. Thank you, Mr. Milana. Of course, my pleasure. And off the record, 208. Thank you. Yes, we're off record.
okay. Okay, with this, we are going to go into closed session. We will reconvene the board meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30. That's Friday, May 22nd at 9:30.